Hi, I'm Kenny Anderson, and welcome to Impact. As Director of Multicultural Affairs for the City of Huntsville, it's my privilege to meet with lots of people in the community to talk about a variety of topics and subjects that we think are of some interest to you. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you benefit from the information that we have to share today. You know, every year about 232,000 women are diagnosed with breast cancer, and a little over 39,000 actually die. Today we're going to talk with some people who are going to share great information about not only the statistics, but also what's being done at the local level to create more awareness and advocacy for understanding this very significant problem. First of all, I want to welcome Kisha Freed to the broadcast. She is the CEO of WordExpress.com and Publishing. Welcome to the broadcast today.
Thank you for having me here, Kenny.
It's good. She's also the author of this great book. It's called The Breast Cancer Anthology, From These Hands We Give, and we're going to talk a little bit about this book as well. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, good. Well, it's your book now.
Yeah.
Right. Also, we have Sandy Cross. She's a breast cancer navigator
Right.
with Huntsville Hospital. Tell us what a breast cancer navigator is.
Well, what I do is when ladies are diagnosed with breast cancer and they're newly diagnosed, I get the opportunity to help them navigate through that season of their life. I go over their disease, because there's 15 different types of breast cancer. It's very important for them to know what type of breast cancer they have and the treatments that are open for them. You know, so I go over the pathology report with them, kind of lay out the process and help them understand what's going to be down the road. And it sort of helps because I can have more time a lot of times than the physicians even, and I can just tell them on our terms and they understand it a little bit better. Then I stay in contact with them throughout the whole process.
So you're a literal support system that actually has the capacity of walking with people through the journey,
right?
Helping them better understand what's going on, providing support for the family, directing them to various resources, and other kinds of things.
That's right. That's what I do.
That's awesome.
I'm very lucky to do it too.
Well, that's wonderful, and we're really glad to have you here today.
Yeah.
Also joining us is Edna Fales. She is a retired educator, and she's also representing today the Kimberly Fales Jones Foundation, which also focuses on breast cancer awareness and education. Welcome to the broadcast today.
Thank you very much.
And we're going to learn a lot more about that foundation and why that foundation is something that more people should be interested in, know something about. I want to just talk with you all, first of all, about breast cancer itself and the incidence of breast cancer. I know, Edna, you're a survivor of breast cancer. One of the questions that people ask often is, what is the first thing that happens when you recognize that you've been diagnosed with breast cancer? And everyone's journey is different, and I know Sandy can probably speak to that, but I want to ask you personally, what was that experience like of being diagnosed with breast cancer?
My first experience, I was scared. And of course, I thought I would die from breast cancer. But early detection was the key here. I discovered my tumor at the first stage, and we were able to just have a lumpectomy and chemo.
You made a great point about early detection. I definitely want to come back to that because I think all of you would agree that when we talk about medical issues, early detection is so valuable in the process. But Sandy, Edna mentioned fear, and I imagine fear is one of the hallmarks of what people experience when they get that diagnosis. Talk about those early processes that people face as a consequence of this diagnosis.
Well, originally, that is a large part of it. They have a great deal of fear, which is what is good about what I'm able to do with them, because, you know, knowledge is power. And once they understand the type of breast cancer they have and the process, it seems like once they know how it's going to occur and they are more knowledgeable about it, then that has a little bit, helps to alleviate some of that fear for them. Because they, you know, the unknown is not so much unknown any longer. So it does help.
So
But
there's fear. I imagine there's a lot of uncertainty. You know, Edna talked about the whole notion of facing death.
Right.
Which has to be a very frightening thing and a very uncertain thing that would create a lot of instability.
Right.
Family, of course, has to be an important part of this process. And Edna, you spoke with your family, and what kind of reaction did you get?
My husband was, I'm thinking he was about like I was at first. He thought this was the end. What shall I do? My daughter, on the other hand, Kimberly, was calm. She said, Mom, you need to stop crying. You need to come out of denial. You are in denial at this point. And once you consider that you do have breast cancer, you'll know what to do from there. You'll be able to go on.
Yeah. I want to get this in early enough to make sure we get it in and have enough time to talk about it, but we talked about early detection, and that's so important. In order to be able to detect early, you have to be aware early, you have to test early, you have to do some fundamental basic things. What are those fundamental basic things that women and men should do? Because men are also prone to getting breast cancer. It's probably one of the less talked about aspects, even though more and more people are talking about it, but men are susceptible to breast cancer as well. But what are some of the things that women should do on a routine basis to be able to stay on top of this matter?
Right. Well, technically, first of all, they should be aware of their family history, for one thing, and the fact that they are a woman. They need to know the guidelines, which, you know, you should really get your first screening mammogram at 35. And then once you turn 40, you get them every year after that for the American Cancer Society guidelines. And then after 50, there's some debate out there now whether they need them every 2 years or every year. Here in Huntsville, in Alabama, we still are advocates for once a year, even after 50. If there's a positive diagnosis of breast cancer in your family, like if your mother was diagnosed at 42, then you should start your mammograms 10 years earlier. So, you know, it's not just by the book at age 35. So you need to be aware of that type of thing, you know, to do the self-breast exams, which we have a class at Huntsville Hospital that actually we teach ladies how to do the self-breast exams correctly. That's where the earliest detection can actually come into play. That's the benefit for younger women, because younger women between their 20s and 30s, you know, their breasts are very dense, and a mammogram is not as effective, but, you know, your own hands are. And that's the key, because most breast cancers, or many breast cancers, are detected by the patient themselves, which is a very, you know, important, you know, aspect of early detection, is the being knowledgeable about the self-breast exams.
Yeah, and doing that on a regular basis.
On a regular basis, once a month.
Right. Well, being aware of that little thing certainly can save lots of lives.
It can.
And the whole notion of testing early, testing regularly, knowing your family history, of course, becomes important.
Right.
We also know that a person's race and ethnicity
Yes.
plays a role in this process as well, and that women
Unfortunately.
of color,
Right.
of
Right.
course, being more susceptible, perhaps need to be more aware of their family history, perhaps need to test more often, and may
Right.
need to make some adjustments in how they approach this.
Yes. Well, black women typically get a more aggressive type of breast cancer at an earlier age, and that seems to be the difference.
Do we know why that is?
Not really. There's different theories, you know, maybe just not being aware, educated enough to get their testings like they should do. But
maybe
some
even access to treatment.
right, or access to treatment, but they don't have that actually pinpointed down. There seems to be a marker for young black women that's a little bit different than for white women. But where more white women are diagnosed, you know, 77% more black women actually pass away from it.
Wow.
So,
Which seems like, you know, I've got Kisha and Edna here, who obviously represent that population. It seems like that would be a point of interest then, knowing that those numbers are as high as they are. And I know that you, Kisha, have taken a specific interest in talking about this challenge in the community, this health challenge, doing it in a productive, healthy way, trying to alleviate the fear, but trying to build a sense of community. You've done that partially in what you've done with this book, which is a breast cancer anthology, From These Hands We Give. Talk a little bit about how you got involved in this work.
Well, it actually came about from having a conversation that helped me to see where part of the problem was coming from. I was listening to a man who took care of his mother for 3.5 years and a 2-time breast cancer survivor have this conversation. Myself not being a breast cancer survivor, you know, I really just tuned in and just listened to this conversation, and I noticed that the underlying theme was that they didn't have the support that they needed, and that oftentimes women with breast cancer don't tell anyone. And I was just stunned to hear that we as Black women choose to not reach out to our families and our friends to get support when our health is at stake. And I wanted to change that. Well, the first step to change is awareness. You know, people are not aware. And as I began to talk to more breast cancer survivors, I found out that they too, you know, they didn't tell anybody. Some people in their families still didn't know that they had breast cancer, and the question was why. You know, and the answers that I got was, you know, I didn't want people to think I was going to die. I didn't think people were going to support me and be there for me. And I decided to start this whole movement to change that. I'm an artist. I love writing. I have a community of artists as part of my company. And I challenged these artists and myself to say, hey, this is an opportunity for us to use our gifts and our talents to send this message out into our communities. Number one, if you have cancer, any type of cancer, doesn't mean that you have to die. Cancer does not always equal death. Number two, if you have it, you need to reach out to family and friends and ask for support. But this book is also for family members and people in the community in general, because we need to be educated about what happens emotionally and mentally and on a spiritual level to people who have cancer. We need to understand so that we can be a support to them. A lot of times people want to support, but they don't know what to do. For myself, I haven't been really in touch with anyone with breast cancer, but my father's wife had colon cancer. After listening to a number of breast cancer survivors tell me that they didn't tell anyone for a long time, I kind of got a feeling, I bet that's what happened with my father and his wife. They waited before they told me that she had colon cancer. I had my own issues going on. I had no idea how to be a support. My father was about 65, 70 miles away. But what I could have done looking back was made a phone call, maybe not every day, maybe twice a week, and say, Dad, how are you? You know, how are things going? You know, we need this kind of information to be a support. We need to encourage survivors and patients and caregivers too, because they go through a lot. My father was a caregiver. To reach out to them and say, what do you need? How can I help? Is it money? Is it food? Is it equipment and supplies? Do you need me to help you take her to the doctor? Those kinds of things. And so that's what this campaign is all about. It's just bringing that greater awareness, but not only just being aware, but do something. There are lots of times where we talk and we know and we have information, but when it's time to take action, we're paralyzed. This says, here's what you can do.
I want to talk a little bit more about the book in a moment, but I want to ask Edna something that is very important that we need to talk about. And when we introduced this segment, we mentioned that you are with the Kimberly Fales Jones Foundation. Yes. Tell us why that foundation exists.
This foundation existed because of Kimberly. It was initiated through her.
Your daughter? My
daughter, Kimberly Fales Jones. Yes, after we heard that she was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer, she wanted to be that person to help others. The mission of the foundation is to simply give back. Kimberly was that type person. She always enjoyed helping people. As a matter of fact, she seems to be everyone's mother. She always wanted to do things for people. She did not think about herself. So KFJ was formed, incorporated in 2011, 1 year after her death. And the mission, as I said, is to give back to persons with financial need.
So you raise funds through the
Yes.
foundation to meet the needs of breast cancer survivors or just anyone in general?
Breast cancer survivors
Okay.
who are struggling financially.
Okay, all right. So that's an interesting connection because you as a breast cancer survivor, Ben has a daughter who ends up with stage 4 cancer,
Yes,
dies, and then you honor her memory, her commitment to life
yes,
by pouring into this foundation,
yes,
an opportunity to touch other people's lives.
yes.
That has to create some level of satisfaction for you and a level of transition
Yes.
having lost her.
It does. I get joy
Yeah.
out of doing what I need to do for others. We both reached out to people, and we seem to get strength. I get strength from that, helping others.
And like I say oftentimes, even in my own transitional moments, having lost both parents and 2 sisters, you know, we hold on to their memory by
Yes.
doing things in the
Exactly.
present. And they're, you know, the flame of my parents and my sisters' lives go on and on because of the things that I try to do in the
Yes.
community to make a difference in other people's lives. So you certainly honor her memory by doing that. And I know that you have participated in Relay for Life events, which is a huge cancer awareness fundraiser that takes place all around the world every year. And locally, I know that you have recruited team members to support fundraising for that, and I'm sure you're engaged in other activities as well
Yes.
as it relates to this. So that's a very good. Now, tell us how people can connect with you about the foundation.
Okay, our foundation, we have patients who are screened and sent to us through CCI and the Huntsville Breast Center.
And CCI is the Cancer Institute?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just asking because I know some
Yeah.
people will be like,
Clearview.
what is...
Clearview, it's
Yes,
Clearview Cancer
Comprehensive
Institute.
Cancer Institute and the Huntsville Breast Center, where Miss Sandy, the Navigator, works.
Kimberly and I were good friends.
Okay,
We
Yes.
became good friends.
okay,
So
all right.
I-
You know,
Can I add?
yes.
I never met Kimberly, but Edna's story is in this book. And you know, when I first put the call out for these selections, I said absolutely no death, because what we're trying to do is inspire life and hope and faith. We know that death is sometimes evident, but it doesn't have to be that way. But Edna submitted her story, and she told the story of Kimberly. And I mean, she just lit up off of the page. And as I've spoken with other breast cancer survivors, they said, Kimberly, you know, when you talked about, you know, what is the response like when you're first diagnosed, several of the women say, I didn't know anyone who had breast cancer or who had gone through this, so I had no idea what it was going to be like. But some of those women said, that's when I met Kimberly. She was the first person I met, and she took me through those, you know, through those first few steps and gave me a sense of hope. And they said, you know, her spirit was just so bright. She was such a bright spark in their lives, and you know, they just reflect on her and embrace her today. And I think that is just incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it really is, and it's a testament, of course, I think, to a person's life when you can go on once they're no longer with us and continue to every day sow the reality of the life that they lived by giving back. It's that whole paying it forward kind of thing that we talk about in society, where, you know, we can still do good things every single day to make people more aware, to inspire people, as you said. And I know that in putting this book together, which is, once again, a breast cancer anthology, From These Hands We Give, you actually put a call out for people to make submissions.
Yes.
And you wanted to, your sole purpose, as you said, was to uplift people.
Right.
To inspire them.
Right.
To help them know that they were not alone.
Yes.
And to create that community of people who could reach out to one another. And I know recently you've been on a crusade, if I can call it that,
Yes.
of energizing people to support you in this effort to put this book in people's hands. I'm just going to ask you, tell me how that's gone.
Oh, absolutely incredible, Kenny. You know, from November to the end of 2013, I think we had about 140 donations, some of those from the Kimberly Fales Jones Foundation. But as of up until today, we are at 632 donated copies of this book.
Wow.
And I am just, you know, I started off just approaching people, organizations, but one day, you may recall this, where I found out that UAB was hosting a Young Breast Cancer Survivors Network workshop, and I was so impressed with what they were doing. I said, I want to give them 50 copies. I contacted the lady, she got back with me, and she said, well, I think we have about 50 people participating, so I knew right then I was on track. And I just opened it up and put out a call on Facebook and said, we need to get 50 copies down to UAB. And people just started donating, and it just kept going and kept going. And I was like, this is perfect, because, you know, I had a list of all these other places I wanted to do, and we are at a total of 632.
Wow.
And I am just overjoyed, because now this book is a collective project. It's a collaboration with poets, authors, breast cancer survivors, and you also have some health coaches that have contributed. So that is a community project in itself. Now we have opened it up even further and allowed or invited members from the community in various places, not just Huntsville. We've got folks in Birmingham, Montgomery, Atlanta, and on the East Coast who say, hey, I want to support this because this is a wonderful thing you're doing. And we're continuing to give books out. We've gotten books to UAB, Clearview Cancer Institute, Huntsville Hospital. We're sending 30 copies to Gilda's Club in Detroit, Michigan. So going even further out and getting this book into the hands of people and letting them know, you know, you can beat this.
Yeah, to inspire their lives. Sandy, how can people get more information about breast cancer awareness? Or they just call?
Well, they can talk to me. They can call the breast center at any time, and they can put them back to my office. It's fine. Some pretty good websites are thebreastcancer.org. Is one of my favorites.
All right. Give them a phone number so that they'll know.
It's 256-265-2293.
All right.
That's my office.
All right. And Edna, if people want to find out more about the Kimberly Fales Jones Foundation, what would they do?
We take donations all year long, and you can contact us at P.O. Box 3644, Huntsville, Alabama, or you may go on the website kfjfoundation.com.
All right. And is it a 501c3?
It's a 501c3, and I like to say that we're having the 4th annual Breast Cancer Survivors Banquet in October.
All right. And is that an annual thing in October?
It's an annual thing.
Wonderful. And Kisha, we've got about 30 seconds. How can people get a copy of this great publication? Or maybe even want to donate.
Yes, if you want to donate, our website is kind of long. It's www.wordexpress with an X, HVILLE.wix.com/breast cancer support. I'm sorry, it's so long. That's our website. Or just contact me on Facebook under Word Express, and that's Express with an X, no E.
That might be the easiest way. I'll
Yes.
have to keep replaying the YouTube video.
Yes.
To maybe get that information.
Back it up a little bit.
That's right. I think it's a great book. And
Kenny, I want to add, too, that we will be doing a writing therapy workshop coming up in July. And so, you know, anyone that's interested in that, you can also contact me about that. We're hoping to partner up with Kimberly Fales Foundation and, you know, just get out there and do some hands-on work with breast cancer survivors, caregivers, and patients.
All right. So there could be more publications and things coming down the line.
Possibly.
Yeah. You guys got books. Let's hold them up so everybody can see them at the camera right there. There we go.
There we go.
That's a good-looking book right there. Breast Cancer Anthology, From These Hands We Give. And we want to thank you for being a part of our broadcast today. We hope that you've learned something about breast cancer awareness, and we hope that you'll tune in again to Impact in the future. Thank you for being with us today. We'll see you soon.